In online consulting, the hardest thing to do is to ultimately sign your first client through outreach when you have no prior experience and no case studies to prove that you know what you're talking about. In the last 2 years, I was able to take an outreach method that I've never talked about in the online space and ultimately compile it into the biggest moneymaker for my life that completely transformed my lifestyle. I have an apartment here in Miami, a penthouse in Dallas, and I ultimately get to live the life that I always wanted to live at merely 20 years old. And I've made millions of dollars through this exact model doing just that. And so, what I'm here to show you is the discretionary model when it comes to doing outreach. And the reason why it's called the discretionary model is because it's not a specific strategy. It's all based off of discretion and it's very, very subjective to the client that you're ultimately talking to or trying to acquire. And so, what I want you to basically understand is in outreach, right? If you can sign your first client or second client, that's ultimately your breakthrough, right? Typically, within 2 to 3 weeks of ever jumping to this business model, you should at least be getting on meetings and getting on calls. If you're using some of the other things that I teach in my YouTube videos, now once you get on that call and close that deal, you're basically set. That one client can make you 10, 15, even $20,000 in your first or second month, and they will also get you referrals. And so your business can grow off that referral space and almost umbrella out, and not you won't have to do outreach any longer. And so that first jump, that first kickstart of getting your business up and running, getting that breakthrough, having someone trust you and ultimately give you their business in your hands to grow it, is that breakthrough. And that's exactly what this video is about. So listen up. We're going to go ahead and dive in. The biggest thing that I want you to understand, the biggest mistake that I see within people who are trying to break into this industry is ultimately just doing mass DMs. They'll message 100 people a day or 30 people a day, whatever their Instagram allows them, and then they'll basically just get minimal responses or they'll get told to fuck off time and time and time again. And then, there's a major drop off between people who continue doing it and people who just decide to give up. Now, the people who don't choose to give up, what they ultimately see is that, if I send 100 DMs, I might get 2 or 3 responses, maybe a couple meetings booked on the calendar. And so I just have to send 200 DMs or 300 DMs or 400 DMs. And that cycle continues and they make it a numerics game when it's completely opposite of that. The guys that I work with that are absolutely crushing and the way that I do outreach myself is merely through discretion. And so this discretionary model basically starts from the beginning. And the beginning is literally who are we outreaching to? So who's receiving our DMs and who's receiving our attention? And what you have to dumb it down to is market research, right? There's clients that will make you 40, 50, 60, upwards of $120,000 in a singular month. And there's clients that will take the same amount of time, same amount of effort, same amount of headache to barely make you 5K a month. So what you have to understand is, okay, what is the differentiating factor? Most of the time it's going to be industry. So let's go after industries that are profitable, that deem good results for growth operators, right? Because obviously a business that's doing, crazy numbers but won't pay you out on anything isn't a good business model for you, right? So what that looks like is like biz ops, right? Any ecom coach, any trading coach, anything in the biz op niche that helps other people make more money. People can rationalize the price. People can ultimately visualize themselves doing that business model, ultimately crushing it with it. And so those are good niches to partner with. Also, the actual business owner themselves typically already have another stream of income. So they're comfortable with paying you out 20, 30, 40, 50, 100,000. It's not a number that scares them because they understand it takes money to make money in business, right? So once you can sit down and dumb down your ICP, obviously if you're getting started, it won't make sense to go after creators that have 200,000, 300,000 followers on IG because chances are they already work with someone, you're going to have to compete with them, or they just simply won't see your message because you don't have enough authority, right? So the smarter thing to do is go after the smaller guys, right? 10, 50, 100,000 followers that, probably don't get as many DMs. And if you follow up with them, they're probably going to see it, right? And people that actually have potential to do well. So not the guys that have 1,000 followers and 2,000 followers, because those are just too small, right? And we're not here to play small. We're here to make, big paychecks and big numbers and see big results, right? So that's a discretionary basis on market research. Now you've dumped down, a couple people in your ICP that have 10 to 100,000 followers. Once you go ahead and do that, you have to basically audit their business. If someone doesn't need help, how are you going to help them? If somebody has the perfect website, perfect funnel, and a good sales team, but they just aren't making enough money because one, they don't care about it, or two, they're not getting enough adequate lead flow organically, then there's virtually nothing you can do off the bat without having to, build out a marketing system and all these different things, which we typically don't want you to do when you're first getting started in this business model, because then things get too complex. So that's not a good client organically, right? So once you go ahead and find the people that are good for you organically, and you have them listed out, you go through their actual funnel. You go through their system, their website. You maybe even get on a sales call with their sales team and see if they have a sales team and how they're performing. Look at the SMS workflows and the email workflows that they're sending you, prior to your sales call to ensure that, hey, this guy's system's either very good and I'm going to leave it off my marketing list, or it's really bad. And that's a great client that I can prospect to because I know they're missing this, right? So those pain points are ultimately what the outreach model is going to be based off of. So now that you have the list, right, and you've went through some of these people's funnels, now the next step is actually doing outreach. Now the outreach model is where it's completely different. Now, certain people have crazy egos. They've made a lot of money. They got nice cars, nice houses, and they don't want to talk to anyone who's going to waste their time. So don't be the guy to waste their time because you're going to hear the fuck you, fuck off, all these different things that you don't want to hear because they're going to ruin your morale in this business. Right. So the right thing to do is ultimately understand this person, who they are and what they ultimately are about and how they talk, and come with the same demeanor. If they're a dickhead and they're an asshole, talk to them the same way. Approach them the same way with their business. That's how they talk. That's how they get along with people. I'm the same way. I have a couple bad words that I say here and there, but it's just the way I talk. I don't take anything to heart, and it's the way that I communicate with other individuals. Now, on the contrary, if someone's like super nice, super religious, come from that angle. Come from that angle of like, hey, just trying to become a friend, right? If they post on their story, how, where are you from? What are you up to? Things like that. And then you can position that into an actual outreach pitch. Now, what happens is like for me, when I go and contact traders, they ultimately will just connect with me. They see that I have mutuals because I'm a little bit bigger of a social, I have a bigger social presence to a certain degree. Obviously, like, I only have like 2,500 followers, but they see my mutuals, right? I'm pretty respected in the space. So they'll contact me. And then from there, it's like, what's the pitch? So my point is this, even when I go through the friendly demeanor, people still know there's a pitch incoming and a pitch pending, right? So the salesy side of things is inevitable. Whether you send a DM or whether I send a DM, people still think that we're selling them. So what you have to do is come from the angle of helping. Rather than it being out of your benefit, your whole outreach strategy should be out of their benefit. And what that looks like is since you've already went through their funnel, you've already seen their bottlenecks, and you already understand what's going wrong in their business. Now, how can we approach this guy based off their attitude, based off the way that they talk, based off the way that they would want to hear from me and ultimately listen to me? Let's build an outreach strat around that. So an example of this is if someone is that arrogant, cocky dickhead, right? And you're doing outreach, maybe they're not responding, maybe tell you no or to fuck off. Then what I would do, in my personal opinion, is send a 1 to 2 minute Loom video going over those things that we saw earlier, right? What are they doing wrong? Why is it that it is wrong, right? Like maybe if they're running a VSL call booked funnel off of a YouTube video, why is that wrong? For some of you guys that don't know, that could be wrong depending on their audience because what's going to happen is they're just going to get a bunch of no-shows on the calendar. There's no prior human contact, and they're basically, they're probably booking out 3-4 days in advance. Most people that book 3 to 4 days in advance aren't urgent enough to actually show up, right? So that could be an issue that's holding them back from having like a, active live sales team and actually convert leads that come through the funnel hot, right? So that's one of the things. What I would title this Loom video is where it gets kind of shiesty. You want to title the Loom video, hey, let's say his name is Edgar. Hey, Edgar, this is how you're losing out on 100K a month. Or hey, Edgar, or Edgar's not this dumb, right? You can kind of come in at like an aggressive-ish angle, depending on who you are as a person, but you basically want to throw in their face, like, hey, dude, you're really fucking up. You're really making a mistake. And when you can do things like that and basically just come in from an angle of like, I don't care, right? If this person responds, I don't care. If this person doesn't respond, I don't care. All I know is that they have this problem and I have this solution and I'm here to fix. That's the attitude. That's the discretionary model that allows you to actually do well in this game. Now, when you're over here just spamming people and you're sending paragraphs this big in the DMs, you're going to get laughed at. You're going to get bullied. That's not the right way to go about things. That's not how you build a relationship with someone. That's you begging. We don't beg in the space of consulting. What we do is we show our solution, and if they don't want it, it's probably not a client that you want to work with in the first place. They're too ignorant to listen to what you have to say in the first place. How would that consulting business, how would that be a good partnership across the two? They're too ignorant to listen to you in the DMs. But that only matters when you can come in and say, hey, this is what you're doing wrong and this is how we fix it. Not, hey, this is how I'm going to add 100K to your system, right? Some people don't have 100K to add in their system. So how are you going to go and fucking add that? And they know that because they see the back end of the business. So all that you need to come in from is an angle of, educational. hey, you're doing this wrong. I just thought I'd advise you, hey, brother, you're doing this wrong. Your competitor XYZ does this instead. That's something that could help you down the road. If you need help implementing something like that, this is what I would do. And you can go ahead and we can get on a call and I can show you. But right now, what it is we're in such a deep trust recession and everyone's so hungry for money that we're just coming in and just begging for opportunity, trying to force our solution down people's throats. Don't claw for the same clients, bro. There's industries that are so vast, right? 40-year-olds, 50-year-olds, 60-year-olds that have their own circle and their own network and their own connections. And if you can hit those demographics that no one's hitting, and you can use just value-based educational discretionary outreach, right? Where you're basically saying, hey, you're doing this wrong. This is the value that I can bring, right? And you're teaching them, and then you're just talking to them the way that they talk and the way that they would want you to talk. It's inevitable that they respond. And if they don't, then it's the follow-up game. Because we know these are clients that have high potential because we did the market research. And we know that these are guys that need help because we did the market research. So whether it takes you 3 weeks or 4 weeks or 5 weeks or 6 weeks or 8 weeks to get a response out of these individuals, once you do make that partnership deal, it's 100% worth it. Some of my clients I chased down for 3 months. Later on, they end up paying me $800,000 across the year. Is that worth my time? 1,000,000% it's worth my time. It'd be ignorant of you to say otherwise. So that is the discretionary model. The discretionary model, to basically revamp it, is basically you come in and you start with adequate market research. Who needs your help? Why do they need your help? Let's list them down. From there, how do they talk? What kind of person are they? What would they want to hear from me? And then let's create an outreach system behind that. Now, if you send 80 DMs across the week or 80 DMs across the month, those are the people that you know you can help. Those are the people that you know you'll make a lot of money working with. It's worth it for you to take the time to follow up every single day, create genuine outreach strategies. And even if they don't respond within the first couple of days, by the time that they do respond, they see all that knowledge that you dropped on them, all that value that you dropped on them, all those audits that you dropped on them. And it shows that you actually give a fuck. And that's something that's missing today. Not a lot of people give a fuck. Not a lot of people give a fuck about their business. Not a lot of people give a fuck about their clients. And not a lot of people give a fuck about anything, to be completely frank. So if you do, then you're already at an advantage, right? But that's literally it. Once you do that, you start following up, you're going to start booking meetings. And then that's when it gets fun and you start closing deals. 1 to 2 deals can make you 10 to 15K a month plus that. And they can give you more referrals and keep growing your business exponentially. So that's why it's important for you to ultimately follow this model. Start testing it today. Send me feedback on it. And if you have any questions about outreach, go ahead and shoot me a DM on my Instagram. It's going to be linked down in the comments below. But yeah, that's really all I got. It's the same model that I use every single day to book meetings. I literally book meetings with creators every fucking day. Just doing the same exact thing. And I can literally pull up another person that I just booked the meeting with the other day. I'm actually going to block out their name, but just to show you guys some proof. Let's see. Blocking out their name. This is the discretionary model. Literally say, yo, where you at? Off of his IG story. And then we end up booking a call for today. He's a decent sized trader, smaller tier trader, but it's somebody that I can sell on 10K up front and then ultimately sign them on rev share and actually help them scale. One of my creators with only 20,000 followers did 400K last week off of strictly paid. And so that's easily somebody, something I can replicate with someone like that if they follow my system and they're a good client in the first place. But that's literally all that we do. If this helped you, go ahead and like, comment, subscribe. Leave any questions, comments, anything, any video that you want me to release down in the comments below. I'm going to get that released for you, and I'm looking forward to talking to you soon. Peace.